All right. Thank you for joining us today. This is our presentation on creating a JET report. Today, our session will be led by Kelly. She is one of our Business Central lead consultants. The product that we're looking at today is called JET Reports, and this has connectors to close to 100 different environments. Today, we are speaking on Business Central and Great Plains. So thank you very much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be reviewing some of the reports that you can build with JET Reports, why it is able to help you make smarter business decisions, how it can help you outside of built-in reports that are inside of your system. The data is going to be moving over to JET Reports, how you can build those reports. Kelly will also be touching on how we have created a training program for JET Reports, where we train you for several hours on how to build and access your own reports, as well as produce them and be able to schedule them. In addition to that, we've also built some commonly requested reports that we see clients from several different platforms request, anywhere from fixed assets to cash flows to OpenAR. So Kelly's going to touch on some of those reports today. There is a Q&A section on our webinar. You can find that in the top right-hand side of your screen. It says Q&A. You are able to publish any questions that you have for us today in that section, and we will bring them up either in the moment or at the end. We have time for Q&A as well. If you have any troubles accessing any of the information or viewing the screen, please put in the question in the Q&A or email over at michelle.cerna@truenorthdynamics.com, and we'll try and get you set up during that webinar. With that, Kelly, take it away.
Thanks, Michelle, and thank you all for coming today. You're going to listen to me nerd out about JET Reports. I really find it a very powerful tool. I've been working with it for close to 10 years, and it has solved many, many issues that were quite tedious to try to figure out how to solve without them. So with that, next slide. And a couple of bullet points here. The nice thing about JET Reports, and it's not just financial statements, but we're going to focus on that today. They are user built. You don't need a developer. So if you require a customized report for your business, you don't have to go to a developer and say, hey, I need this custom report built. Generally, the information's right there. It's very organized in GP and Business Central, you know, in tables and fields, so it's pretty easy to extract the information. And it's a real-time connection. So if you go in and you make a change or you do something in Business Central or Great Plains, that will be updated immediately in JET Reports once you rerun your report. And the nice thing is it's an Excel add-in with all the Excel functionality that you're used to working with. It's very customizable, repeatable, consistent results. As Michelle mentioned, we are working on some pre-built packages as well as training. Now, the nice thing about us offering you training is we can customize it for you as opposed to going to a general JET Report training seminar. And you may end up learning about things that don't pertain to you at all. So this is kind of nice, and we can do it right on your database and help you build the reports that you need right up during that training. And with that, I will start right in. So one of the things that I started with here is just a simple balance sheet, and you can see it's going to be detailed, but I only have 4 JET Report formulas here because I'm using the power of the JET Report row replicators. Now, the row replicator allows you to replicate rows. I put in some very general filters, and that means that once an account is added to your chart of accounts, that account will be picked up in your JET Report and you don't have to go back in and modify it. So if you put some time and effort into thinking how you want to build your report and make it repeatable, so that you don't have to go back and modify it every time you add an account. You know, it's a much more powerful report for you then. The other thing that I found that a lot of people forget is you are working in Excel. So you do have all of the Excel functions, which means in your formulas, you can use anchors. So here I have an anchor referring back to this account number in column E. So I can copy this across columns and it will always refer back to column E. I also have an anchor built in where it's referring back to my date in cell G2. So I can copy this formula down and it will continue to refer back to this cell. So because I built these with rows and it looks very simple, but when I click run and I already have this date in, I'm not going to change it for now. Calculating, it's thinking. And voila, here's your balance sheet. Well, that's great. I have a balance sheet for the month of August. And look at that, it even balances. Woohoo! But maybe I want to compare this to something. So I can go back to design. And again, because of the way I built the formulas, I can copy this, paste it here. I can put a date formula in here using the date function or even end of month function in Excel. And my start date is here. I'm going to say -12. And I now have the prior year. And then I could put in a variance column. And that took me what, all of 20 seconds? This just needs to be formatted. And I need to take out this date value. The only reason I have a date value formula in here, oops, is because when you run the report and I don't know how many of you know this, but when you type in here and you change your dates, this actually ends up being a text field on your options page. So if you don't use that date value function, it will never format correctly the way you like it and make it nice and pretty. So now if I run it, I now have August 23 of this, August of this year and August of last year. And then I can put in a nice variance column and calculate my percentages and simple. I mean, I think this report took me 10 minutes to write and run, adding in some totals. Now, I understand most of you aren't going to list every account separately, but it's just an example of how row replicators and thinking about how you want to create your formulas to make them repeatable can help be able to process them on a consistent basis going forward. Okay. So next we'll do a little income statement. So I have a month-to-date income statement here. Again, I have my dates, which are pulling from my options tab. I have my row replicators. I even have the functionality of Excel in an if statement so that if this is 0, don't show it. I don't need to look at 0 amounts. And again, I have my anchors built to reference my cells, so this becomes something that I can copy very easily. So I'm going to run this one. Oops. My apologies, I forgot to change the company. Okay, so that's great. I've got my month-to-date information in here now. But I need that doesn't tell me a lot. Well, by copying the columns and using some simple Excel date formulas, I can create a month to date with variances, a quarter to date, and a year to date. So now when I run this, and if I put some fit, this would work better, but now it runs, and I think it took me maybe 10 minutes to create these extra columns. So it really is a powerful tool as long as you remember to incorporate some of your Excel functionality. So I started, and the only thing I had to put in was my month end date that I wanted to report from. So using that date function, I could calculate, the next date value I want to use for the prior year just by saying, okay, year of this cell -1. And then for this one, it was just calculate your month minus 2 months. I think people forget that you can use all the Excel functionality in Jet Reports. And let's say maybe I want to do a trailing 12. Again, I have a month-to-date income statement. Big whoop. Well, I want to see a trailing 12. And now I can use a column replicator. We used row replicators here. Now I'm going to use a column replicator. And I can put any date I want in here. Let's say 6/30/23. And look at that, I've got a trailing 12 income statement now. And again, you're not going to go back to the side. Okay. Again, this income, oops. On my options page, even though you only saw that you had to put in a date, I have the calculations that I need over here. Again, date function calculations. That calculates the beginning month that I need of 7/1/22, creates the date range. And the formula that you use for your replicator is actually a combination of repeating columns and your utility function of NP and dates. So if we pull out, I'm just going to pull this out to show you how it looks.
Kelly, while we're
Yep.
discussing the income statement and the trailing month for the column setup, we have a question. Can the trailing month income statement be formatted for the entire year, then run each month as needed?
Absolutely. Now, this is a very simple setup, and I know this is not how you necessarily would present your income statement. Normally you might have, revenue and maybe a couple of different categories that of a multitude of accounts that might roll up. And you can do that by instead of doing NL rows for all your income accounts, you could manually type the account numbers that you want to be included. So if I said I want, let me just run this real quick. So if I just wanted the one row, I could say I want 40100 through 40500. Or I could just put in here 4. And I just want 5. And then I know my expenses are all 6. Oops. And you'll see, because I've got the column replicator, it's replicating everything that's in the column. Oh, it's because I have the row replicate. My apologies. If I take out the rows, it would replicate everything, as you could see. I guess I wasn't prepared for that question. But yes, you can format one column the way you want to present it to, your board, your supervisors, your executive team, and it'll continue to replicate that column as you have it formatted across all of them. So go back and put my NF in. So my key, again, using anchors, my key is C13. And because I use the actual field name, which is number for this, the GL account table, I can also reference that. So it is $12. And because I used the anchors, I can copy that right down. What I did want to show you though was this NP, this utility function that you have in JET. You can say dates, and this references my start date and my end date, and then I tell it what type of period it is. So you can see here, it knows to start with 7/1/22, end on 6/30/23, and it's doing it for each month. Now you could do quarters, you could do years. I selected month. So this is embedded inside of this column replicator. So those are these are some of the more advanced things that, we could help you learn and help solve your problems with reporting through the training. I call them my little tips and tricks. So the other option is maybe you have dimensions that you want to report your income statement by. So I've got this pretty income statement again, month to date, quarter to date, year to date. But this particular company has locations too. Not a big deal. You could easily copy this and put your location filter up here with just 2 locations. But we have some clients that have hundreds of locations. They don't want to build each and every worksheet for that. So I put in here a sheet replicator. And what this does is it's looking at your dimension value table. and it's going to bring in your code, and I told it to look at the dimension code of location, and the filter for that code I'm referencing back on my options tab, which I just put an asterisk in, so it would bring all codes in. So now when I run this report, and again, I could run this for any period. And now I have my year over year on a year to date, quarter to date, and month to date basis. And you'll see I don't have any rows that have all zeros anymore. Again, that's this little if statement that if they're both zero, hide them. I only did it on the month to date, but you could, in theory, continue to add ifs here as well. And it's as simple as saying hide or show. And the trick to that is making sure that up here in this cell in B1 is you have the hide plus question mark. And it's basically telling Jet Reports, I want you to make a decision as to whether this shows or not. So if I had just put hide here, it wouldn't work. And you see, again, with these date formulas, it's automatically calculating. I don't have to sit here and think about it. And so again, it's repeatable and it's consistent. Maybe this time I decide I want to see this by department. Because they also have departments. So I'm going to change my dimension code here. To department. Now, it's not working because I have a filter built in here. That's looking for global dimension 1.
And the beauty of it being in Excel is that you can do save as, right, Kelly? So we can start with our rows and our columns and then save as and add in any additional filters or settings that we'd like for each specific report.
For some reason, this latest version that came out keeps making this extremely large. And I'm actually going to change this to location to global dimension 2, which is my LOB line of business, $D, $4. Change this to only because your GL balance function in Jet Reports only works for your first two global dimensions, and my department is the third dimension or shortcut dimension 3. Once you get into that, you have to start using some of GL entries, which isn't hard. I just don't want to waste your time on that today. So now I've changed this formula. I can copy, paste it. Now don't forget, this is another tip I learned. Instead of when you want to show your revenue, which is typically a credit balance, some people, instead of putting that minus GL at the beginning, they add a times -1. You're making Jet work harder. So you're better off doing the negative GL. So now I can copy these formulas over. And run this. And of course, who knows what I did? I didn't change this. And that's typically how I write reports, is run them, figure out what I did wrong, and try again. Usually I'm pretty good though. And now I have an income statement by my line of business. And it automatically creates a separate worksheet for each line of business. So those are row, sheet, and column replicators, which, again, with a little forethought and a little planning, when you're writing your reports and using those anchors, which is, just regular old Excel functionality, can really help you create these reports so they are repeatable and they are flexible. So one of the things Michelle also talked about was some of the package reports that we've been trying to think about and put together. And these are just some examples of reports that clients have requested from us. So one of them is on fixed assets. So this is the typical fixed asset report that comes right out of Business Central. It's okay. It gives you probably in most cases what you need. But some of our clients have additional requests from either their auditors or their tax accountants. And one of our clients requested a more detailed report that incorporated some of the information that's on the fixed asset itself and not on the fixed asset net book value report. And again, bring in the acquisition date, the original acquisition cost, month to date, year to date, accumulated depreciation to come up to your net book value, as well as the original life and the depreciation method for every asset. Now, this is just a straight dump, and we could have sorted this and made it look prettier, but they didn't want it that way. They just wanted it dumped. But we could have set this up so it sorted and grouped everything by its posting group, however you would need it. One of the other big requests is more of a when you need to do your analytics, and BC is great. You can go right in to your GL and copy out all your activity and sort it and filter it, and but it's a lot of work to do manually. So what some of our clients have asked for that we've customized for them is a detailed GL report. And it actually can go down to, they have 4 dimensions. And we also brought in the source name for either customers or vendors as well. Because sometimes, and it gives you the document number, the type of document, the JE number, the posting date. You could do multiple periods, multiple accounts. It's just a useful tool for them, as well as, the beginning and ending balances, not just a credit and debit amount and not just a list. And again, that was using the sheet replicator. I built it once for one account, and then it just replicates it based on the list of accounts. So another example is the vendor and or customer ledger applications. So this particular company, these are all the credit memos that were posted in the month of August, in August. And they're actually amendmented using MEM. So to go in and have to look at each one of these and figure out which invoice or payment it was applied to is extremely tedious. So they asked us to build a JET report, and now it gives them a list based on this posting date and the company of all the credit memos that were processed in the month and what invoice or payments they were applied to. We could do this with customers, payments. It's the same theory. And that, again, I assume GP is the same way, but because tables and fields are similar on some of the master data, like vendors and customers, it's almost the same. It's just a different table, but all the fields are the same. So it's very easy to build it for one and then just tweak it. So it, instead of pulling vendor ledger entries, it's pulling customer ledger entries. And more often than not, your vendors are probably going to contact you and say, you still haven't paid this. Well, yes, I have. And, you can go back and easily run a JET report to figure out where that got paid or how it got paid, what got applied to it. I know some customers have asked us to build custom customer statements as well, because the customer wants to see the actual activity of what their payments were applied to. And this way you could just run a report real quick on the fly and send it to them instead of having them on the phone with you and having to look in BC and look at each individual transaction or payment and how it was applied. And then the last one that we've had quite a few requests for is a sales by ship to state. Now this particular customer, we just did basically a dump, and sales by ship to state can be difficult because you have to pull it from your posted sales invoices as well as your posted sales credit memos. And you want to bring in the lines, but you have to look to the header for the ship to state. So this is a combination of pulling in both the posted sales invoice header and lines, as well as the posted sales credit memo header and lines. And then this particular customer just wanted it dumped into a pivot table, and then they sorted it themselves. So those are kind of cool things that we can do. like I said, I'm a big nerd when it comes to the JET reports. I love solving our clients' problems with the JET reports. And there's been some unique ones where I've had to really dig deep to figure out how to combine dimensions to figure out if it was in a budget period or not, or if it was in an actual period or not, to make sure that we were comparing actual to budget correctly. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
How about if we have multiple company databases and we're not using a tool like multi-entity management? Are we able to build consolidated reports?
You are, because in all of your formulas, you can identify the company that you want to pull from. So if I dig into this formula, you can select a company right here. So if I wanted to pull in, right now I'm using JET Training, but if I wanted to go and pull something from the whole bean, I could do that. So I could have one column that represents one company, another column that represents another, as many as you need. That's how you would do a consolidation with multiple companies that aren't using MEM.
Wonderful. And to expand on that, if we're using something like row or column replicator, can I run the same report for different companies without having to make it a change, almost like a template?
Yes, yes. Again, we could save this as one company, right? I could save this. This I'll save as my JET Training. And I can come in here and change it. Oops. Actually, I can just change it here to JP Manufacturing. And I should have saved it as that. But you know what I mean. I do this all the time to myself. And then I could run it. I don't know if there's any data in this company, to be honest. Yeah, there's not.
Yeah, we don't. That's I think a playground one.
Yeah, I just picked one,
Wonderful.
but yes, it's
Yep.
as simple as that.
Wonderful.
So yes, again, you're building, and you can see here it's changed to JP Manufacturing from JET Training. So yes, again, I built this once, right? And I can reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. Either for multiple companies, multiple columns, multiple time periods, multiple sheets.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any other questions in the queue for now. If you guys have questions, feel free to post them and we'll get those answered for you.
Okay.
Okay. In the meantime, thank you always for joining us in our webinar. We are happy to answer additional questions. If you have questions about the product, about what we offer in the training package or the reports package, please feel free to reach out. If you can pop over to the next slide, Kelly, it will actually give us some email addresses. So you see me there at the top. My name is Michelle Cerna. I'm the Director of ERP. So I can answer questions on Great Plains or Business Central for either of you that are on. You are always welcome to reach out to Jody Miller, who works with our sales, or your account managers, either Amber, Cameron, or our partner success team, Megan or Michaela. We will send out this deck to you so that you have those email addresses that you need, as well as a copy of the recording. Just a little bit about Jet. We would purchase that product on your behalf. There are two different licenses. There is the designer license, that is the person or people that would be building the report. And then there are viewer licenses, the people who just view and run your report. So there's different pricing depending on what role those people would have, and different access levels that are inside of the actual ERP that you're using, whether it's Great Plains or Business Central. It will respect any of the security that you have assigned to users there. So if I do not have access to the general ledger, I cannot access the data inside of Jet Reports for that same data that I'm trying to run. So it will respect your security. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are happy to answer any questions, help you get set up on Jet Reports. We can even build those reports for you if you have no interest in building them, but just want to utilize them. So we are here for you in all of the different levels of need that you require. With that, I thank you for all joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a wonderful day.